This was one of the deadliest industrial accidents in Thai history. It happened late on Monday night, September 24th, 1990, on New Phetchaburi Road. The incident took place at around 10 p.m. New Phetchaburi Road was alive that night, buzzing, pulsing, like a vein in the heart of the city. Neon signs flickered overhead, humming with electric light, casting strange glows on wet pavement. Street vendors shouted over the roar of traffic, smoke rising from sizzling woks, the air rich with the scent of fried noodles, grilled pork, and sweet chili. Motorbike taxis weaved between cars, horns blared, lovers bickered on sidewalks, and children clung to plastic bags of snacks. It was Bangkok at its most alive, messy, loud, unstoppable. A place where life never really slowed down. Mr. Suthat was driving a gas truck for a private company. He was speeding down the New Phetchaburi Expressway exit, trying to beat the red light, but the truck overturned. The vehicle skidded along the asphalt, scraping and groaning, until its two capsule-shaped gas tanks, each holding 3,770 liters, broke free. The gas escaped slowly at first, a faint hiss in the dark, barely noticeable, like a whisper slipping through concrete cracks. Then it spread, silent, invisible, unstoppable. It slithered into drains, seeped under shutters, clung to the humidity. It crept around food stalls and gathered at the feet of pedestrians, mixing into the breath of the unsuspecting. It filled the air with a tension no one could smell. Still, life went on. Vendors kept grilling. Motorbike taxis revved their engines. Office workers lit their last cigarettes. No one knew they were walking through a death trap. And then, boom! The explosion wasn't just loud. It was obliteration, a hellish roar that ripped the night apart. Windows shattered like brittle ice. Flames erupted like hungry beasts, leaping across buildings, swallowing flesh, metal, and bone. The shockwave didn't just knock people down. It erased them. 12 blocks were devastated in seconds. Cars twisted like toys. Concrete crumbled. Power lines burst into showers of sparks. The street became a furnace. 88 lives were lost that night. Some were incinerated before they could scream. Others crushed beneath buildings that once stood tall. Some simply vanished. Nothing left but char and silence. And though the official number stood at 88, whispers say the death toll was much higher. Over 100 souls gone, maybe more. In the aftermath, the city rebuilt, because Bangkok always rebuilds. But for the people who lived through that firestorm, for those who still walk that road late at night, the air has never quite smelled the same, and some say it never really left. There's an old woman selling snacks. She looks just like any other street vendor. A wide woven hat shielding her face, a small cart stacked with crispy pork, roasted peanuts, dried squid. She moves slowly, methodically, setting up shop right where the pavement is cracked, where the walls are blackened by a fire nobody wants to talk about anymore. The air still carries that faint smell, like burnt grease, scorched metal, something worse. Then she looks up at you. You should leave, she warns softly. It's going to explode. Some people laugh, some freeze, some turn to leave, unsure why they suddenly feel cold despite the Bangkok heat. But when they turn back to ask her something, she's gone. The first encounter came from a man who sold amulets at a nearby night market. He'd been in the business for decades, knew every spirit tale the city had to offer. One evening, as he was setting up his table, he noticed her, standing near the edge of the old blast site. Just standing, selling food like she belonged there. A customer approached her, handed over coins, took a small plastic bag of crispy pork, and as she passed it over, she said it. Quiet, almost too soft to hear. "You should go home. It's going to explode." The customer laughed it off. The vendor didn't. because he recognized her. She looked exactly like a woman who had died months ago in the explosion. The vendor turned to get a closer look, but when he glanced back, she was gone. So, who is this woman? Locals believe she was one of the victims, a street vendor who died in the explosion. She had no family, no funeral, no one to remember her. Some say her spirit lingers because she's trying to save people, warning them the only way she knows how. Others believe she's trapped in a loop, reliving the moment she died over and over again. But there's one final encounter that chills me the most. A security guard working near the old explosion site had an experience he could never explain. It was late, and he was making his rounds when he saw her, the old woman. She was sitting on a plastic stool, her cart next to her, hands folded in her lap. She wasn't selling anything, she was just staring at him. He walked closer, uneasy. "Do you need help, Grandma?" She just shook her head. "You should leave," she said softly. "It's going to explode." Then she pointed, off to the side, down the road, her finger shaking. He turned his head, instinct, reflex, just for a second, and when he turned back, she was gone. All that remained was that bitter scent, smoke, char, and something human. He couldn't explain it. No sounds, no lights, no tremors. Just that smell burning in his nostrils like a warning too late to matter. About 5 or 6 months after the explosion, the late-night taxi drivers, especially those working the lonely 3 to 4 a.m. shift, began to whisper. It started as scattered murmurs, strange sightings, odd smells, moments of silence so heavy it made their skin crawl. But soon, the stories lined up too perfectly to ignore. Many of them reported the same thing. When driving past the old gas station site on New Phetchaburi Road, they'd see figures standing by the roadside. At first glance, they looked like people trying to hail a cab. But then, under the pale orange streetlight, the details came into focus. Skin blackened and blistered, limbs stiff, heads slightly tilted like broken dolls. They were charred, unmoving, their eyes empty, if they had any left at all. And they were always standing in silence, waiting. Some drivers rolled past with windows open, only to be hit with the smell, thick, suffocating, like burnt flesh and sour smoke mixed with something rotten and wet. It filled the car instantly, clinging to their shirts, crawling up their noses, lodging in their throats. Some said it didn't fade, not even after they aired out the vehicle or scrubbed it clean. One driver swore he stopped for a woman who looked completely normal. She stepped into the back seat and quietly gave him an address. He remembered her tone, flat but polite. She didn't speak during the ride, just stared out the window. But when he arrived and turned to tell her the fare, the seat was empty. No sound of the door opening, no trace she'd ever been there. He even saw the window on the passenger seat fogged up, like someone had been sitting and putting their face too close to the glass window. The next night, a similar thing happened to a different driver. This time, it was a man, older, wearing a white shirt stained with something dark. He gave an address. The driver took him halfway, before noticing something strange in the mirror. The passenger's reflection wasn't showing up. He slammed the brakes, looked back, and of course, no one was there. These stories kept piling up, one after another. Eventually, the drivers made an unspoken rule among themselves. No picking up passengers from that stretch of road after midnight. Even if someone flagged them down, even if they looked alive, they'd pretend not to see. It was too dangerous, too risky. And still, odd things happened. Some nights, traffic lights near the ruins would glitch for no reason, flickering uncontrollably or freezing on red even when the streets were empty. Drivers said sometimes they'd hear tapping on the back window, soft and steady, like someone wanted in. But every time they checked, there was no one there. A few months after the explosion, a quiet 24-hour clinic just a few blocks from the site started experiencing things no one could explain. It always began after 10 p.m., never before. The kind of hour when the streets outside were nearly silent, when the city's usual chaos had settled into something eerily still. It started small. The front door would open with a slow creak, followed by the gentle jingle of the door chime. But no one was there. Then came the sounds of footsteps, soft, deliberate, crossing the waiting area. Chairs made of thin plastic would groan as if someone had just taken a seat. At first, the staff brushed it off. Wind, faulty hinges, a trick of the ears. But it kept happening, every night. Then came the night a newly assigned nurse, young, inexperienced, but polite, welcomed a patient who walked in around 2:15 a.m. It was a woman, mid-40s maybe. Her clothes were old, worn. Her hair smelled faintly of smoke. Her skin was pale, her eyes unfocused like she hadn't slept in days. The nurse asked her name, her symptoms. Her hands shook a little as she spoke, and her voice was low but steady. The nurse wrote everything down, symptoms, personal details, the works, and then asked her to wait. A few minutes later, when it was her turn to see the doctor, the nurse called out her name. No answer. She looked around. The woman was gone. Not in the bathroom, not outside, not in any of the rooms. Vanished completely. Still trying to stay professional, she asked the night supervisor if they could check the CCTV footage. Maybe the patient had slipped out quietly. Together, they pulled up the footage, and what they saw made her blood run cold. In the video, the door never opened. No one walked in. The nurse was sitting at her desk, smiling, nodding, writing notes, talking to no one. She had held an entire conversation with empty space, and of course, that now invisible patient had told the nurse she was there for burn wounds. She claimed she'd been in a fire. The nurse never worked the night shift again. And now, we've reached the end of this episode. Do you believe that in places where great tragedy strikes, where screams echo and lives are lost in terror, some souls never leave? Do you believe they're still wandering, still trying to go home? Some don't even realize they've already died. Subscribe for more chilling stories, folk tales, and urban legends from around the world.